Welcome to the Scoop World Order. I hope you guys had a great, kind of extended 4-day-ish weekend starting Thursday with the 4th of July. I hope you guys had a great Sunday. Great weather in Central Ohio. Five-star flip incoming. Looks like Larry Johnson is on the warpath again. We're going to break that down. James Laurinaitis bagged a huge, the number one linebacker in the country yesterday. The recruiting trail's on fire, folks. This is something that we're going to enjoy. Number one recruiting class in the country. And who's next? Could it be David Sanders Jr.? We're going to break all that down. We're getting close, guys. We got a few weeks until training camp kicks off, and it's going to be go time here for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Top two teamish in the country. Oh boy, get ready for 2024. The only place to do it is on Buckeye Scoop and BuckeyeScoop.com. We appreciate you guys for kicking in with us each and every day. Again, 7 days a week. Might take a day off every once a month or so, but we are grinding for you guys. We appreciate you guys, all of your support. Again, thank you for all that you guys do. Special shout out to our men and women in law enforcement, our police officers. Busy week, a lot of festivals, a lot of fireworks. You guys are rolling deep during this to keep us safe. We appreciate you for that. All of our armed force men and women serving this country across the world. Thank you for your service, along with our tired service members. We appreciate you. Stand up for your country. We appreciate America. This was a great weekend for America. And again, we're just so happy that you guys are a part of what we do with Buckeye Scoop and BuckeyeScoop.com. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, subscribe to our Apple Podcast channel. Those are huge. They've been growing like crazy. A lot of good feedback. Shout out to my truckers that traveled nationwide. I get a lot of feedback from you guys because some people don't like the long format, but we always go for at least an hour every day. And a lot of my guys that are driving long hours, they love listening and know they've got at least an hour to kill with us, sometimes an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours. So we appreciate you guys. I've got a lot of comments on that. So we appreciate you guys keeping our country rolling with what you guys do. Again, this is a huge show because you guys made it one. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to have you guys here. So thank you. This is only big because you guys make it big, and we never forget that. So thank you guys for being a part of it. Shout out to our moderators, Devin, Akeem, Kim, Doreen. Thank you guys for keeping this nice and clean. As always, our chat is excellent, and it's a great thing to be a part of. So thank you for all of that. That being said, time to bring in our resident five-star world traveler, Mr. Nevadabuck. Nevadabuck, Malik Autry is the latest five-star who could be flipping to Ohio State. Big-time defensive tackle. What are you hearing? What do you know? And is this class, as much as people like to complain about us missing on a guy, we're closing a lot of people, almost a record number at this point. What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, I mean, an amazing class. Ohio State's got a ton of recruiting momentum. They feel like they can go anywhere, anytime, any place, and get anybody. Special shout out to James Laurinaitis, who, if you guys were fans of the podcast, you guys know that Kirk and I were leading the drumbeat on the hire James Laurinaitis train. Not that we were alone. There was a lot of you guys were there with us, but man, we banged that drum for a long time, and he's as good as we thought he was going to be. Kirk had said at the time, which seemed like crazy praise. He's like, look, he'll be to defensive recruiting what Brian Hartline is to wide receiver recruiting, and seemed pretty gaudy praise, but turned out to be prophetic. James went in and has just grabbed two great linebackers and he's really kind of replenished the room, really kind of helped with the energy on the defensive side where this defensive class is just loaded with guys. And so now what's happened is Ohio State's recalibrating in the wake of the DK Moore, I won't say spurning loss, whatever, however you want to describe it. That basically freed up some additional money on the NIL train. So now Ohio State is planning on how are they going to reallocate that. And Malik Autry may be a guy that kind of gets some of that money reallocated too. When he was out here, it was interesting. Malik was a kind of an unabashed supporter of Auburn. Was talking to a lot of kids about Auburn was out there. But now that Ohio State's kind of sweetened the NIL thing, I'm not quite sure. I think they've turned his head a little bit. He's kind of seen the momentum that's going on with Ohio State. And now I'd say Ohio State is very much in play for him. Whereas if you'd asked me that question a week ago, I said, no way, Jose. And it still may not come to pass, but Ohio State feels like they're in the game. They feel like the game is afoot. and they're going to start to pursue with renewed vigor, and that's exciting news. So keep an eye on this one. We'll be digging continually to try to get the scoop on it, but it's definitely something that's in play, and that is a change in terms of Ohio State recruiting.
Yeah, I'm excited about him. Again, I think that the lack of Nick Saban being in the South is something that Ohio State is taking full advantage of. Again, we've never been huge in the old let's go down and recruit Alabama and try to kick through that door, because it is tough to pull kids from there when Alabama is rolling. You could get some B tier kids, but in general, like, you're not going to go down there and beat the Crimson Tide when they're. And even Auburn, they were notorious with the bagmen back in the day. I mean, it was tough to waste your time. Again, you got to remember with recruiting, when you're looking at, you draw this map and you assign territories across the country, and you've got 10 coaches, and you've got so many hours and so many days where you're on. It's not infinite. It's not, you only have, I don't know, 4 weeks at a time. Like the month of May, they're on the road recruiting. There's, they're dead basically now until they catch a bye week. When they get a bye week, they'll go on the road and recruit a little bit, but in general, it's not a lot of time. So you really have to be thoughtful with your resource allocation. And again, for all of you college football savants who are getting ready to play NCAA 25, when you play NCAA 25, like, you only have so many points to dole out to send the head coach to this high school and send the assistant coach and write a postcard and go visit this place and whatever. So it's kind of the same way. So, I mean, I honestly don't even think in 2012, when we did the recruiting kind of, the map, I don't even think we sent anybody to Alabama. And again, I could be wrong. We might have passed through there, but we didn't spend a lot of time there. I mean, I honestly, I'm gonna have to ask Zach, because I don't think we ever sent anybody to the state of Alabama. I think we were very light in Louisiana, in Alabama, just because they were like brick walls, So why try to attack a walled city when you can go to Texas, you can go to Florida, you can go to Georgia. Georgia's a lot more transient. It's not, I mean, people from Atlanta are from all over the country, obviously. So there's a lot more ties down there where you could maybe make inroads at schools like Peachtree Ridge. I mean, we went down there, we got Bradley Roby, we got Cam Hayward. And that was back before we were really as aggressive in recruiting, you could say, under Jim Tressel. When we beat Roby, we beat Vanderbilt on Roby. So it wasn't like we beat Florida State and Georgia and Bama and Texas. Like we beat the Vanderbilt Commodores to get Roby. That was just a great evaluation by their staff. But now with Saban being gone, we've already got a couple of guys from Alabama. We got Quinshawn as well, who's a transfer portal kid from basically Montgomery. And I think that the biggest difference now for me, other than Saban being gone, is we have Carlos Laughlin on staff. Like, Carlos Laughlin is from Montgomery, so he's got ties down there. He knows the area. Obviously, he's got a very light recruiting background just because he hasn't been doing it for very long. He started off as a volunteer coach at Memphis and went to Florida State for a year with Norvell. Then he went to Western Kentucky as a running backs coach for like a year or two. Maybe it might have been 1 year. Then he went to Oregon. And, when you're at Oregon, like, you're not going to spend a ton of time in Alabama. You got to go recruit the West Coast and Texas predominantly. But I'm just telling you, like, now that you have Carlos Laughlin and Nick Saban gone, it's kind of open season on the state of Alabama. Larry Johnson's credentials in terms of developing defensive linemen and how many guys he's put into the first round. And the biggest thing is, if you guys have recency biases, the number of huge extensions that have been gotten by guys that he directly tutored for their entire careers at Ohio State. Like, he had Joey for the last year, Nicky for his whole career, Chase Young, Davon Hamilton, Jonathan Cooper will get a nice second deal. Tyquan Lewis, Sam Hubbard got a huge second deal. Draymond Jones got a huge second deal. So it's guys across the board, on top of the fact that he's going to have a huge crop of guys at the draft this year with Jack Sawyer, Ty Leak, Ty Hamilton will get drafted. And obviously JT2 Malloa. So I think that those factors really make it enticing because, he's got a track record. He hasn't moved along. He just signed a new 2-year deal. And I think he could go longer than that. I know people think I'm crazy, but I mean, he's making, I think, $1.1 million this year. to be a D line coach. I mean, he's making a ton of money. I was stunned. I thought he was making 750, 800. He's 1.1 million. So, again, people could say, "Oh, well, he's old and whatever," but like, dude, like when he was coaching high school football in, the DC area, Virginia area, wherever he was at over there, like he probably made a million in like a million years basically coaching high school football. So he's making real scratch, and he coaches a loaded room. He's responsible for 4 guys. He doesn't have to coordinate anything. Like, I think it's a good spot. And then if you can send some of these young cats out on the road, he's got his young D line guru dude in there. If he could go out on the road a little bit, I don't think that hurts. So again, I think that the proliferation of the D line room is something that's going to be something to behold. Because the next guy up is Edric Houston. He's going to be an absolute dominator. He'll start for us next year for sure. So I'm excited. With him, Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson, like we're gonna have a really good defensive line rotation this year. I think there will be drop off next year just because we won't have the experience, but the talent will be there in droves. So it'll be fantastic. Nevada, as we're getting into July, it's crazy because we're literally a month out from training camp starting. How are you feeling about the team at this point?
Well, I mean, I just can't wait to see him. I mean, we've gotten some bad news today. Apparently, that TC Caffey, the walk-on running back, may be out for the year with the ACL, which is bad. Um, bad for your running back depth in a running back room. But again, let's keep it in perspective. TC is a walk-on, but good player, a guy that's respected by the other kids on the team. And when you talk about the position that's probably the lightest in terms of depth on the team, it's definitely running back. So that was a little bit of bad news, but just excited about the season, excited to see this Will Howard offense, how this thing runs with the helmet communications, how it runs when the quarterback is running the football, how it runs with Chip Kelly calling the plays. And then to get the feast, we know that what the defense is going to give us. The defense is going to give us, dominating line play week in and week out. Got some ball hawks in the back. They got some guys that are going to be going for some gaudy sack numbers up front. Linebackers that can run. So I think we know what we're going to get there. I mean, special teams is kind of a mixed bag. We've got, a place kicker that Ohio State's got an awful lot of faith in him, and a brand new punter that hopefully doesn't have to punt very often. But lots of things to be excited. I mean, the J.J. Smith show, we've talked about, how excited are we to see J.J. Smith? And the fact that we get this kid for 3 years, and I think the ongoing debates on the board about him are, is he Randy Moss, or is he Julio Jones, or is he Calvin Johnson, or who's his comparable, which is just crazy. And normally in those circumstances, I'm in every thread, I'd be like preaching caution. I'd be preaching people to kind of slow their roll. But I think with JJ, I think the hype is worth it. And we're going to get a chance to see that thing in full display, from the get go. And that's going to be awful fun. So just for me, the whole season is just about excitement. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to get into fall camp so we can, answer some questions. Who's going to be the second linebacker? Who's made the strides over the summer to kind of solidify him? Is it CJ Hicks? Is it Sonny Styles? Who's going to be flanking Cody Simon there at linebacker? And I think that's going to be a heck of a battle. And, offensively, what's the right side of the offensive line going to look like? Is it going to be Josh Fryer at tackle? Is it going to be, Luke Montgomery at guard? Is it going to be Carson Hinsman at guard? What are they going to be doing on the right side? That's going to be fun too, because as one of the positions that you make the biggest move on over the summer, is offensive line. You can get bigger, faster, stronger. You can make some pretty serious strides in 2, 3, 4 months. And people don't think that. People think, you can't, these kids can't really get that, can't really change their body that much in 2, 3, 4 months. But we've seen some pretty crazy body transformations in really short periods of time. And on offensive line, as a guy gets stronger, a guy gets a little more agile, a guy gets a little more, more flexible, then that can make a big difference, and maybe that pushes him into the starting spot. So the season's all about excitement for me, and I just can't wait for it to start.
Yeah, I think that a lot of guys can change their bodies in 4 months. I mean, you start gaining weight, losing weight, a little bit more strength, agility. I mean, the thing that's different now with these guys when it comes to changing the bodies is their nutrition plan is very, very comprehensive. And I mean, like, our nutrition plan was go to McDonald's next to the Woody Hayes or Cane's or Subway. Like, there's a little plaza where the old Kroger used to be, where that was, if you wanted to assassinate any of the Ohio State Buckeyes, like, you could find all of us at one of those three spots: Subway, Cane's, or or McDonald's. It was almost hilarious how bad it was. Especially the McDonald's. I mean, that was like, you'd go that line and get like a couple burgers before practice, and it was like you'd see every car known to man over there. Now, these guys, they meet their dietitians, they get weighed in every day. A lot easier to get these guys on track. But there still are some guys that are underweight. Not a lot of guys that are overweight, because if somehow you can be overweight in the summer when they run you absolutely to death, then you're just a fat hog. You're a fat pig. And you must eat you must eat pudding and ice cream and cream soda like every single minute of every day on the weekends. Because in the summer, when you do heavy conditioning, and I'm talking like you're doing it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when it's 90 degrees on turf, if you can still manage to be overweight, God bless. Now, there's a lot of guys that get underweight because, again, the volume of running is substantial. So it's cool because when you're a guy like me who like loves to eat, you can literally go out and, eat Taco Bell and Chipotle and whatever in the world you want, because your body's like an incinerator, because you're lifting, 2 hours a day. Then you're conditioning for an hour to 90 minutes a day. And then if you do anything extra, you're going to be burning a ton, 6,000 calories a day easily, which was great, So, but for some of those guys, they're so lean that they have to constantly be on them about eating. And it's, for some of those guys, it's not fun, but whatever. It's cry me a river. I got a super chat, Nevada. Oh God, here we go. Here we go, Nevada. This is the day. We're about to start counting down backwards. David Sanders' commitment date is August 17th, Nevada. August 17th. So for the next, 60 days, we're going to be talking about David Sanders. How excited are you that it'll be on August 17th?
I think that's not 60 days. That's like 35 days, dude. What are you on the Mayan calendars?
Oh, my bad. I don't know why I think it's June. Tripping. Little light on the math skills. Yeah, I guess when you podcast every day and you speaker twice a day, it's just like eventually like all the days kind of run in like two big phases. So there's no excuse for not knowing math. But yeah, that'll be an exciting day.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be a good day. I'm very confident that Sanders is going to do the right thing. Ohio State's very confident. I love where we're positioned. I love how we're positioned. It makes a lot of sense. And with this recruiting momentum, it just makes sense that he goes to Ohio State. So that'll be a good day. That'll be a good day for Ohio State fans. It'll be a good day for Buckeye Scoop.
It'll be a great day for podcasting. I'm going to toss on Malik Autry's film real quick. Yeah, I think that, the interesting questions going into training camp for me are the right side of the offensive line is going to basically come down to who's the better pass protecting right tackle. I mean, obviously, clearly Josh Fryer is the guy they're going to be the most confident in pass blocking, but give George Fitzpatrick, make them feel more comfortable. As opposed to, because I think that right now the chalk is Carson Hinsman at right guard, and then you have Josh Fryer at right tackle. I think that's the chalk. Now the wild card is George Fitzpatrick, who has been outstanding during the summer, from what I've been told. Really, really physical kid, really athletic kid, tall kid, but it all comes down to pass protection. And again, the spring game, I thought he looked good. I think that he looks the closest to, he's not Taylor Decker, but I mean, in terms of how he moves, I could see some of it, just in terms of staying in front of guys. I don't think Luke Montgomery is ready to play guard, but it'll be interesting because, again, he's got a lot of talent, but he's a tweener. I mean, he's a guy that I think he's got tackle athleticism, and I think he's more comfortable at tackle because that's all he's ever played. But he doesn't have long arms, and he's not very tall, so they put him in at guard. But I don't know if he's strong enough to play guard. Now, could he get stronger? Sure, of course. But, I mean, when you're playing guard and you're playing with the ones, man, you're going against Tyleek. You're going against, and again, Carson's got to get stronger too. I know those guys are all fighting against time to get stronger because when you got to see Ty Hamilton and Ty Leak when you're on the inside, I mean that's as good as there is in the country. And I know you guys think I'm biased, but look at their NFL draft rankings. Like Ty Leak's ranked as a first round pick, could easily be a first round pick. Ty Hamilton's a mid round guy that'll play 10 years in the NFL. I've seen a million Ty Hamiltons in the NFL that last, and they're not big statistic guys, but they do everything right. They're smart. Again, his brother signed for like $48 million or whatever on his second contract. So I'm not like just pulling it out of my, whatever. But I think that's going to be fascinating. I think it's going to be fascinating to see if JJ truly does become the number one wide receiver. I think that because of the seniority thing that they're going to want to target Emeka the most, like just for, morale. Emeka's been a good soldier and he stuck around for another year. So I'm sure that he'll lead the team in targets, but is JJ truly the best receiver on the team? Because that's what everyone says. So we're going to see. I mean, he's the guy that I know is the scariest. Terrifying to see him out there as big and as strong as fast as he is with a 44-inch vertical. Like, I don't know. I mean, they do these tests. They do all kinds of goofy tests that are hard to explain, but they do like this goofy, if you guys are into CrossFit, there's that Rogue bike. And Mickey Marotti loves that thing. And it'll destroy you if you do these interval things that they do. Cause people think, oh, a stationary bike, like that's what like old ladies do in the country club when they're getting warmed up. But that thing is a monster. And they do these intervals and like JJ killed every skill guy. Every guy wasn't even close. And JJ grew up in Florida running at noon, his personal trainer, and his dad, I talked to his dad, his dad's like, JJ's been running hills for, 10 years now. So his legs are just wicked strong, wicked fast, muscular, explosive. So you put him on them bikes, he about breaks the bike. When all these other kids are about to fall off and die, JJ's like crushing the thing. So that's kind of the legend of JJ Smith. He's like one of those guys that Bruce Feldman every year does a big list of the freaks of college football. Like JJ should be like the number one guy on the list at this point. Kind of getting to be the point where he's legendary in the weight room. Nevada, your thoughts? We are going to hit the another super chat. So, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, the thing about JJ that makes him so special to me is just his attention to detail and his, he's not the typical wide receiver that's flashy, that's about the stats. That's all about him. He's all ball, and he reminds me of Marvin Harrison in his approach to that. And that was one of the things that we liked about Marvin when he came out, is he was NFL ready. He had an NFL pedigree, and he wasn't distracted by NIL and all this other stuff. He just, he was just all football all the time, and that's what JJ is. JJ is the guy that's, when he's in there late at night, catching balls by himself late at night. I mean, that's what he's doing. He's not out partying. He's not out driving his camouflage Rolls Royce or whatever else he's doing. He's working, and those are the kind of kids that, I mean, he understands what it's going to take to get to the next level, to exceed at the next level, to have success at the next level, and create generational wealth at the next level. And he's all about that. And that's why I love him. Because to me, I've seen plenty of guys that have been athletic. I mean, maybe not as athletic as him, but lots of athletic guys come in and flame out in college. And I think JJ's bust potential is so incredibly low. Really, it's, knock on wood, it's really limited only to injury, because his ability is just off the chart, but his work ethic and his mental focus is really second to none. And I think that's really what's going to separate him and really ensure that he has success at Ohio State.
Absolutely. Gio, it's Herbert or Abear. Thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my friend. Just a reminder of the 10K Salute to Service free roll is at the Reserve in Toledo this Saturday noon. All veterans and active duty members are welcomed. Nevada OH. Yeah, I love, let me get that a little bit smaller on the screen. I love the being able to promote things like this. So if you guys are around and you guys are veterans and you guys love to play cards, this will be a really cool event at the Reserve in Toledo this Saturday at noon. So come on out, have a good time. You get a free roll, and I believe that there's a buyback in for what the number was, but that looks like it would be a really good time. Yeah, Nevada. I love everything about JJ. I got some Altry film on right now. I'll tell you what, man. Bama is on. I mean, Bama. This is some really good looking film. This looks like college film. Um, but this kid is super active, and his hands, the explosion, the burst. Like these are exactly the guys who are in here. He's playing nose, triple teamed. Of course, the back runs right into the triple team where he's still able to make the play. Pin pull, spins out of it, runs down the line. I mean, this kid's a 5 star all day, all night. Bare front. Again, I love watching this kid's tape, and I love like the quality of tape these high schools have now. Because I mean, this is like crystal clear. Big time's a smart play right there. He did not get a personal foul, and he easily could have cold cocked that guy going out of bounds. But like I said, the speed. Does he get him here? See, I mean, this guy closes on a guy who's probably about half his body weight, which I think that this is impressive because this is like one of those goofy drills that they do in camp where it's basically like they have to, they have to go and they have to, he runs up the field and then you got to chase and flatten down the line and pursue. And like I said, I love watching this kind of stuff because I think that it really shows the type of athlete this kid is. And it makes it really impressive. Uh, Again, this is a guy with Larry Johnson would be fantastic. But this is the kind of scheme that Larry likes to run. He likes these guys to get upfield and disrupt. And basically every single play that he makes, he's upfield, disrupting, active in the running game. Like I love this kid's film. So I've watched it a lot. This would be, a nice cherry on top to a huge D line class. And like I frankly, kids like this, I would take him over, the kid that we just lost from Cincinnati, who went to Alabama, because this is this is a 330 pound, defensive lineman, and he is fluid, and these guys are way harder to find than edge guys, in my opinion. So you add him to a 6 man D line class, and he might be the top guy in the entire class. But yeah, I love watching this kid's film. So. Nevada, as we get into we get a little closer to camp, a lot of people are worried about Will Howard. A lot of people are worried about, is he what, people are having collective see. Like the combination of him and Chip Kelly, like, what's your level of confidence with that? 'Cause I think that those guys are going to be fantastic together, especially with what I'm hearing and how we're going to change this running game up. And this running game is going to be dynamic, potent, 2 running back sets. Emeka Buick is going to get some carries, in motion. All of that together, I think, is going to make our our running game much more dynamic and much harder to stop. What are your thoughts on that? He actually just rang off. So I'm going to take my thoughts on that. I think with Chip, Chip is going to be a huge add. Nevada, did you get the question?
Well, yeah, you're talking about with Will Howard and confidence in Will Howard, and look, I'm the most confident person in the world when it comes to Will Howard, but I can tell you where.
Oh, he's muted.
You still got me there, Kirk?
I got you. Go ahead.
Okay, good. I said my confidence is coming from the other players. I mean, the players believe when you talk to the players. We always talk about how the players know who the players know, and when you talk to the other players and you talk to them about Will Howard, man, they're like, "Oh my God, this guy is just such a stud, has such a command, such a leader, veteran, calm leadership, likable guy." Immediately came to the room and made friends, commanded respect, and so believe me, we're getting other types of because we don't always get that, and especially at that position, you got a quarterback coming in like that, you got to win over the room because everybody in Ohio State is aware that this is a national championship or bust season. Everybody, every player, parent, support staff member, janitor, security guard, and everybody knows that this is that season, and so they brought in Will Howard at the most important position as a kind of an outside mercenary to come in and lead them to the national championship. And if they didn't believe that he could do it, man, there would be grousing. People would be screaming. They'd be like, oh my God, what have we done? How they brought this guy in? This guy can't play. Blah blah blah. But it's exactly the opposite. Whatever the highest type of marks you want to get from players and staff, that's what he's getting. So for me, I can look at all the Texas film that I want. I can look at all what he's done. I can say, man, this guy won the Big 12 at Kansas State with virtually no one around him on either side of the ball, and he managed to lead his team to the Big 12 championship. How good's he going to be with Ohio State? But that notwithstanding, his time here at Ohio State has just been marked by people just really being so impressed with what he's doing and how he's going about his business. And this summer they're able to spend more time than they've ever been able to do. They've been able to work on the helmet comms, so he gets Chip Kelly in his ear right up to 15 seconds, which is going to be the biggest. It's a complete and total game changer. And teams with a veteran quarterback, with an experienced quarterback, are going to be 10x effective on this with this positioning, because you're going to have an opportunity to go out there and make reads at the line, and then have an old hand like Chip Kelly in your head, giving you your keys. What are you looking for? Watch the outside linebacker. He's shading over the tight end, whatever it is, to kind of do it. And you're going to be able to kind of run your offense. But guys that are experienced, guys that have been there, guys that have played at Texas and at Mizzou and at Oklahoma or wherever, there's going to be a huge edge to those guys. And, we've got that in abundance. But, Will's done everything that we could have possibly asked him to do and more. I think he will be a captain this year, which, again, is rare for somebody to come in from the outside. But the guy's a born leader, and I think he's going to be unbelievable at Ohio State.
I do too. I think he's got a big year ahead of him, and he's putting in the work. And again, we're going to go as far as he'll take us, which I think is going to be very far, because the infrastructure is going to carry this team. Another guy I want to talk about, because this guy does not get enough love, and we talked about him a little bit on the last show, but Mylan Graham is a guy who didn't get the hype train rolling because he was not here for spring ball. Not his fault. It was just a deal where his high school would not let him graduate early. Similar to Brandon Ennis with American Heritage. I'm going to toss this film on real quick, because this kid is dynamic. He's fast. I know that people get upset when we lose, to Corey or whoever, but I'm like, watch this kid play. And this kid is every bit of a 5-star wide receiver, and he's got jets. And again, this is like a 95-yard touchdown, or he just, gets the angle on guys. And by the time he gets to the end zone, he's 15 yards ahead of whoever. I mean, he slows down at the end, but he's an absolute burner. And this is a guy that I don't think people talk about enough. What is your, because again, we have a lot of people fly off the edge when we do, if we lose a kid, we lose DeCorian, we lose some of these kids. But with receivers, man, there's only one football. And I think there's always going to be attrition when, you talk about guys not getting their touches, guys getting passed on the depth chart. Because I think that, a lot of those guys that cleared out here were they're going into their third year at Ohio State, that they all went to Iowa and Cal and Auburn and, player to be named later or whatever. They saw JJ show up. They're like, yeah, we're not beating that guy out. They saw Ennis and Tate show up. They're like, yeah, we're not beating those guys out. So they went to, less competitive rooms, and, God bless them. Hope it works out great, but we'll see. But this kid is a kid that I think could be like a factor sooner than later, just because he's got a different gear. Like, again, when you see him get in the open field, man, he is torching guys. And, it'll be interesting to see. I can't imagine he's going to have a huge role, because our receiver room is just so loaded. Like, if Brandon Ennis can't play last year, then I don't know how this kid's going to play much this year. But, this guy could make some noise in camp. He's the kind of guy that, he gets in some scrimmages, and he's going with the 3s and the 2s, the second and third team. And he gets his hand on a couple of these deep balls. I mean, he could really make a name for himself quick. But what are your thoughts on Mylan Graham? Because, again, this is a kid that we get a lot of smoke about, because he kind of is a forgotten man because he wasn't here during spring practice. And I almost feel like if you're not here during spring ball, man, it's like people almost forget that we even took you as a commitment. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, Mylan's a guy that, has immediately kind of gotten attention with his athleticism. And as you said, it's a crowded wide receiver room. I mean, anyone else would have killed for Ennis or Rogers or Graham or any of those guys to be like, oh wow, that's the guy, that's the best wide receiver in our class. Well, those guys can't even find the field at Ohio State right now. So, as you mentioned, when we have the inevitable setback in recruiting, whoever it is at whatever position, you have to take a step back and look who else is in the room, who else is in the class, who else is coming in, and we've just got guys upon guys upon guys. I mean, our biggest challenge, frankly, is keeping these guys happy enough and patient enough so that they wait for their time, so that they don't just portal out. Because with the reality of the transfer portal now is you've got instantaneous free agency for every player on your roster, for every player on everybody else's roster. And if, with kids, if they don't see an immediate path to the field and some other school comes in and waves money at them, they could be gone. So I think it creates more pressure on the staff to play guys earlier, to get guys involved, to make them feel like they've got a plan, that they've got a path to the field, to starting, to success. And like I said, I do not envy the coaching staff in terms of doing it. As you said, it's one football. You're trying to move the thing around to a lot of different guys, super talented guys on offense. And but I think as a result, what you'll see is, in the past, we might have gone 4, or maybe we've gone 5 deep on wide receivers. I think we'll go 6 and 7 this year, just not so much out of necessity, but a combination of, the longer season, the expanded playoff, and you're trying to keep these guys active, involved, and out of the portal, because portaling is always an imminent threat that you've got to keep an eye on, and something I know that's in the back of every member on the Ohio State staff's mind.
Yeah, I mean the portal's it's real, and so again that's why I don't sweat when we don't get some of these kids, because if they're flaky and they could be malcontents and they're getting these huge offers elsewhere, like I mean there's a chance that in a year, if they don't play here or they aren't happy with their role or whatever, they could go and try to kind of circle back and say, hey, can I still get some sort of an offer from you or whatever. So again, that's why the kids we get, I'm thrilled about. The class that we have, I'm thrilled about. Again, you guys can call me Bobby Buckeye or Sunshine Pumper or whatever other stupid name people have said about me, but I'm like, we do have the number 1 class in the country, guys. And we do have the team that's probably going to open as number 2 in the polls. I imagine Georgia will probably be 1. And, even on the video game, we're the second best team on NCAA 25. So, I mean, whatever metric you want to go by, like, I'm happy with it at this point. I mean, our recruiting class, if we get Sanders and we get Autry, this is the best class in school history, in my opinion. So, now again, you got to go look back at the whole thing in 5 years and we'll see how it shakes out. Because, that the 02 class that, had AJ Hawk and, Troy Smith and Santonio Holmes and all those guys, they get buoyed because that first year when they were all true freshmen, they won a national championship. So those guys right off the rip were national champions, and not many of them played significant roles. Now, Rob Sims was probably, obviously Maurice Clarett was the bell cow. Rob Sims started at left tackle that game. And a lot of the young guys like AJ Hawk and Bobby and Kudla, those guys all played special teams, in that game. But not many guys were out there starting and playing a lot outside of Maurice and Rob Sims. But they still all got rings, so that's just something that you can say national champions right off the rip, and obviously provided substantial depth. But as that those 4 years wore on, I mean there were some incredible players in that class, guys that are in the OSU Hall of Fame. I mean, Nick Mangle's probably got a shot at making the NFL Hall of Fame. But, Troy Smith obviously won the Heisman. Santonio Holmes won the Super Bowl MVP. I mean, there's a litany of really, really good things that happened to that class. So that's the benchmark. But, from a talent perspective and from a star perspective, this class is right up there. And the funniest thing about the O2 class is like a lot of the guys that were the heralded guys didn't really do anything, and the guys that were kind of the 3-star guys, the 4-star guys at the bottom, those were the guys that really carried the class and made it into the legendary class that it became. And I think that it'll be interesting to see what we get out of these guys. But when you've got the best quarterback in the country at the top with Davian St. Clair, I think it makes it a lot easier to say that this is a benchmark class, a class that we'll refresh the roster with some really good young players, and it'll make this team even better. But yeah, like I said, I want to make sure that we talk enough about Byron Graham, because I don't think that he gets the love. Because again, these guys that don't get to graduate early, man, it's almost sad because of how much intel we get from spring practice and then the spring game, and the JJ Smith runaway hype train, it flew off the cliff. I mean, after like the first week of practice. So that's something that I think, honestly, if I'm a lot of these kids, I would kill to graduate early, especially if you're a skill guy. Because if you have a big spring game, man, like you can already start getting the car deals and little NIL deals, and those people all want to get good relationships with the next superstar and have a good 3 to 4 year relationship. So I think it's important. Sonny, what is up?
Kirk, but before you get into that question, without looking at the Google machine, the great Ohio State class of 2002, where did that rank in the country? Team rankings for 2002 college football recruiting.
Oh God, probably like top 5, I think.
Yeah, it was 5th. It was 5th. So we're talking about the greatest class in the history of school.
No, I
was
know.
5th.
Yeah.
It was 5th in the country. So it's like, you put it in perspective. Like as Ohio State, I don't know how many times we've finished number 1 in recruiting in the modern era. Have we ever finished number 1?
I don't think so.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't think so. I mean, it's like because the problem is we never would sign like 30 players. Like a lot of these schools in the South would sign like 30 guys and process 10 of them within the first 6 months of them being there. So we never had a class big enough to be number 1, just because we would try to play by the rules, and we weren't processing guys like crazy like we do now. So it made it really hard. I honestly don't think we've ever had the number 1 recruiting class. Now, I could be wrong, and in the chat, please let me know if I'm wrong, because again, I love being corrected. I'm not lying. Like if you guys say, "Oh, Kirk in 20," I mean, the ones that could have been close would have been. I mean, Urban's first class did great. The Ezekiel Elliott class was fantastic. Obviously, they had like 5 first-round picks in that class. But yeah, I mean, if you go back and look at the O-line class of that 02, like the guy who was the godsend, the guy that was thank God we got this offensive tackle, was Derek Morris, and he never played it down at Ohio State, and he sucked at NC State, and he never did anything in the NFL. But that was the guy's like, thank God we got Derek Morris, because there's no way we could survive with Nick Mangold and Rob Sims, Doug Daddish, TJ Downing. I mean,
Ohio kids.
Well, yeah, 3 of them got drafted. Nick's 7-time Pro Bowler. Rob played 9 years in the NFL. Daddish got drafted. TJ was a second-team All-American. Doug was a second-team All-American. Nick should have been a first-team All-American, but wasn't because of the stupid Greg Esslinger thing. But yeah, I mean, nobody cared about any of those guys. It was all about Derek Morris, which again, there's a lot of these big-time these tackles that are Derek Morris. Again, Kenyatta Goodwin. And again, I'm not going to speak ill of the kid. I know that his grandma died or whatever. But when we lost Kenyatta Goodwin to Kentucky, and then he transferred, it was the end of days. Like, oh my God, cancel the season. How are we ever going to survive without Kenyatta Goodwin, who's like 6'8", and he lost like 100 pounds, so got him down to like 320, and he got beaten out. Greg Studewire got beaten by Kentucky. How are we ever going to survive? I don't know, Nevada. I don't know if we're ever going to survive without Kenyatta Goodwin. And he's out of football. Shock. Look at Kirk. Right again. Shock. That's going to be my next shirt. Kirk, he's right again. I was like, oh my God. I literally said, how are we ever going to survive not getting Kenyatta Goodwin? And within 2 years, he's out of the game. Out. And I know whatever happened, his grandma died. That's whatever. My dad died when I was 12, and somehow I just pushed through it. But I'm just saying, it's like he's out of football. And I'm telling you, like, our message board, we had some of the dumbest human beings in the world on our message board saying, oh my God, how are we going to survive without getting Kenyatta Goodwin? And guess what? We're good. We have 2 really good tackles this year. I mean, we had Paris Johnson, DeWan. We've had the greatest tackle run of all time in the last 5 years. I mean, I'm serious. I mean, outside of Pace and Stringer, like the guys that we've put in the league and guys we got coming. We get David Sanders Jr. Good God, it's the platinum era of offensive tackles at Ohio State. We're going to have 4 starters in the NFL this year. 4. And the only reason Dewan might not start is if they got to play Jack Cochran because they paid him too much money. But Paris is starting left tackle. Thayer's going to start at right tackle for the Raiders. Nick Petit will start at right tackle for the Titans. So pretty good. I mean, especially for the last 4 years. Super chat. D Sonny, appreciate you, brother. As always, talking about wide receiver speed. Devin Hester and Ted Ginn just look different on TV. I'll throw Reggie in there, even though I know Reggie's not a receiver, but those guys, like, they were all like the same year became the greatest like kick returners of all time. How fast did Ted look in person? Any wow moments? Well, it's funny because I played with Hester in 08 with the Bears, and he was fast, but I thought Teddy was more straight line fast. I thought Teddy was better than Hester, just being honest. And I mean, I might be supremely biased, but Teddy was a guy that I thought he did more as a receiver. Hester, I thought he started off like wildfire in his career. But by the time we got to 08, which is I think year 3 for him, maybe year 4, teams were kind of onto him. And I think that the hard part with Hester is like when you become the guy that's like every time you touch the ball, it's a punt return or a kickoff return, it's a touchdown. Like I felt like he like started to try to do too much and really press it, because it's got to be a natural thing. And again, you need, as much as it is fun to be a great returner, you need great like coverage, a great punt return unit of guys that set everything up. Because it's all a big scheme. It's not like you just catch the ball and try to run around in circles and try to get a touchdown. It's like, no, you got to have a good scheme for it. And Devin Hester and Dave Tobe, and again, this is not taking anything away from Devin Hester. He's a Hall of Famer. But Dave Tobe was probably the best special teams coordinator that's ever lived. And he was really, really good at setting those things up. But I thought Teddy was different. I mean, obviously, Teddy carried our offense in 04 when we sucked. He had a long touchdown against Michigan State that was huge. Ran one back versus Wisconsin when we sucked, and we lost at home. Obviously, the big one against Michigan with the famous photo where like the backup quarterbacks all have the headsets on and they have like that little slumped, like they look like they're like the children of the corn. They're just standing there with their arms crossed, and Ted's like running past them full stride. Like that was special. Honestly, that Northern Illinois game in 06 when we started the year off we scored like 28 points in the first quarter, and we had some poor cornerback they had like twin DBs. They had like a safety and a corner that were like twin brothers. And I mean, Teddy just ran past him like twice. He had like 2 60-yard touchdowns in the first quarter. And so I knew that was special. But, Notre Dame obviously started off early. And the first touchdown, he was like 20 yards past the DB when Troy chucked it. So special player, rare player, best player in our team. And again, obviously I've told people a million times, Florida smashed us in 06. I get it. They're better than us, whatever. But he was our best player by far. So in football, if you take Pat Mahomes off the Chiefs in the Super Bowl this last year, or you take Christian McCaffrey off the 49ers, like, does the game go to overtime? Does it look different? Probably. I mean, if you take the best player off any football team in a given game, like Tom Brady left the Patriots and it basically cost Bill Belichick his job because they were completely putrid at that position going forward. So again, Ted was a special player. Was he the best player I ever played with in college? It's got to be close. It's got to be him or AJ. Maybe James Laurinaitis. Maybe Nick Mangold. Those guys are all first rounders, top drawer type dudes. So he's at the very, very top of the list. And one of my best, dudes, a guy that's going to come on the show again. I've got a great interview with Ted on our YouTube channel. If you guys have not seen it, it is one of the funniest interviews of all time. And I love Ted Ginn. I love his dad. I love Troy. I love all the Glenville guys. So special dude. Nevada, D Sunny, again, thank you for the 5. So talk about wide receiver speed. Devin Hester and Ted Ginn just look different on TV. How fast did Ted look in person? Any wow moments? Your thoughts, Nevada?
Well, you got to remember, I mean, you talk about Ted Ginn and Devin Hester. I mean, Ted Ginn played in the NFL for 14 years. Which is a crazy long time. I mean, you talk about longevity. I remember when he got picked, people were like, oh, he's primarily a specialty act. He's primarily a returner. But, boy, he played it was a very productive wide receiver. I mean, Devin Hester only played 11 years. Devin Hester only had 30 career touchdowns. Teddy had 40. So, I think by just about any objective measure, Teddy was a more dangerous player. I mean, Devin obviously, great player, but I mean, Teddy again was the most dynamic, force of nature. That a guy that completely transformed. I mean, the kind of the perception of Ohio State from being kind of a stodgy, 3 yards in a cloud of dust kind of thing, to now all of a sudden you've got this road runner out there. And I was there the first game he ever returned a punt for touchdown against Wisconsin. Actually, a game we lost. I don't one of the rare home losses we had that season. But Teddy caught one, returned it, and you just knew immediately you were watching something special. And then the Michigan game, I like Teddy again is the reason why I long for two punt returners back there for Ohio State or somebody to return a kickoff, because every time he touched the ball, you felt like he was going to house it. I mean, every single time. And I miss that. I miss the fact that now that a punt is pretty much a fair catch, now a kickoff is pretty much take it at the 25. Ted Ginn was must see television every time he went back to touch the ball, and hopefully we'll get some of that back this year. Maybe with Caleb Downs, maybe with some twin receivers back. But Teddy Ginn was the best.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love little Teddy. What a great dude. D. Sonny, again, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you, brother. That O2 class was amazing, but will we ever get a better recruiting picture than the one with Eli Apple, Zeke, Lee, Bosa, and Pantone? I mean, again, that's 4 first-rounders, and I mean, Zeke, and they won the national championship. I mean, they checked every box, I mean, obviously Joey and Zeke went top 5, and Eli was, I think, top 50. Eli and D. Lee were both top 20. So that's it's pretty special, especially when you're young kids. And, these guys all had fantastic careers. I mean, they're all still going. So, Nevada, I don't know. Is there a better recruiting question or recruiting photo than the one of Eli Apple, Zeke, D. Lee, Bosa, and Mark Pantone? I know we're going to go with this probably.
Oh God. Yeah, I think when they say discretion is the better part of valor, and given all the wonderful things that are happening in Ohio State land right now, I am definitely going to say that 4 of those 5 people, they're just unbelievable, attributes and contributions to Ohio State, and that sure is a special picture for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Right on. Thumbs up.
Do you have that framed anywhere? Would you like it framed and signed for your?
Yeah. Not sure. It's not sure it's gonna make a place on my wall of fame. I'm not sure it's gonna move my Frank Tanana autograph picture off, or Garrett Anderson autograph baseball. So, I'm not sure that's gonna make it. But I appreciate the thought.
Garrett Anderson from the Angels.
Garrett's my boy. I love Garrett. Garrett's like my kid. Garrett played for me in Palm Springs for the Palm Springs Angels, and was just an unbelievable kid. Went on to have a great career with the Angels. So I've got an autograph thing of him on my thing, but just because I love Garrett Anderson, I'm a big Garrett Anderson fan.
You didn't get a Tawny Katan autograph too, or no?
Ooh,
because that was the pitcher, the one pitcher that the Indians signed.
No, his name? Chuck Finley. She beat the hell out of Chuck Finley.
I know, but they all played for the Angels at the same time. So I'm just saying.
No, Tawny Katan. That was Tawny. Every time you see that video, you're like, oh my God, she really is completely insane. No, she's still alive. I don't want to speak ill of the dead or something like that. She's still alive.
Let me look it up. I don't know. I know that she was on the Indians, and I remember like the whole thing. I was like, oh my God, Tawny Katan's.
Yeah. Took off her high heel shoes, started like beating him with it or something like that.
I love that.
Yeah.
She is dead. Died in 2021. Okay. I didn't know.
Yeah.
She's only 59. Jeez.
I know. Yeah, we can't speak ill of the dead. Okay, God bless you, Tony.
I mean, I'll speak ill of OJ. But
yeah, but OJ's in hell. That's why.
I was gonna say I've never heard of that.
Yeah, allegedly.
All right, C. Brown, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my man. Kirk, can you talk about the mental aspect of the game? When times get hard, how did you rise up to the occasion? Mindset seems to be the difference. Well, Nevada kind of dovetailed this thing just perfectly, because Nevada was at a game that I was also at, the Ted Ginn Wisconsin game. that was the first game where I got extended playing time in my career. And why did I get extended playing time? Because Wisconsin had the best defensive end in the entire country that year, Erasmus James. And the guy went first round, best guy I ever played against. And of course, I'm not starting, which I hated not being a starter because when you're a backup offensive lineman, you constantly have to stay loose on the sideline because, if a guy breaks a shoelace or gets his ankle rolled up or has even some temporary thing, you've got to go right in. Like, I mean, they don't stop the game for you. There's no 15-minute warm-up session. It's like you're in there and you're going against Erasmus James and Antosh Hawthorne. And those guys beat the tar out of our 03 team up in Camp Randall when we had Adrian Clark and Shane Olivier and Stepanovich, and Bryce Bishop got benched forever after that game. That was literally the game where Bryce, it was all the guys that started and beat the Miami Hurricanes. And they played in that game minus ID, Ivan Douglas, God rest his soul. They put Robbie in at left tackle there because Ivan had blood clots in his lungs. But those guys were all back. And none of our guys who'd played, 40 starts each, those guys are all in the NFL. So all of a sudden, we got these young guys, which was Robbie and Nick were back, were two starters, but then it's Doug Dadish, it's Mike Nee, and it's Tim Schaefer as the other three starters. So I had lost the battle in camp. I kind of screwed myself because I got hurt during spring practice. So I was late to, I really had no chance to win the battle. Was okay in camp, but it wasn't enough. And they kind of had in their head that Tim Schaefer was better than me, which again, I don't hold their poor evaluations against them, but it was poor. So then we get to this game, and I swear to God, you guys can look this game up on YouTube. In the first two drives, Erasmus James has a tackle for loss. He sacks Justin Zwick. And then, in the second drive, he has, another tackle for loss. And I don't think he had a second sack, but I think that he killed our quarterback again, and he got rid of the ball. It was like Tim Schaefer wasn't even there. And I'm sitting there watching this. I was like, God, that looks like that sucks. And John Peterson, after the second drive, comes up to me and says, Barton, you're in. Get loose. And I'm like, oh, God. I'm going against that. I'm going against the best player in the country. And it's like, okay. So, got loose, went out there, just kind of played basketball. I wasn't really ready to go, but I was way better than Shafe was. And after that, I started the rest of my career. So I played good enough versus the guy that I thought was the best defensive end in the country. Went first round. The Purdue Boilermakers hit him with the dirtiest high-low I've ever seen in college football. And I swear to God, after this high-low where they destroyed his knee, he was never the same player, ever. And he played I'll never forget, they played Georgia in the Capital One Bowl, and Georgia had David Pollock, and they had Erasmus James, and I think Erasmus might have been out until the bowl game, and he came back and actually played the bowl game. But I watched him in the bowl game, and he looked terrible. He looked slow, lethargic, and he still went first round. He went to the Vikings. It was a total bust. But he was never the same. When I played him, he was like lightning off the edge. So, in terms of the mental thing, you gotta, have amnesia. And sometimes it doesn't hurt to be kind of dumb when you play football, because I think a lot of these kids, they get in their heads and they get, they get into these death cycles of, oh my God, I lost a rep. Oh my God, I lost another rep. Oh my God, it's like, it's like the way Oprah Winfrey gives away cards. You get a card, it's like, you lose a rep, you lose a rep, you lose a rep, you lose a rep. And these kids, they just get in these death spirals. And again, I would tell these kids, I'm like, look, when you're doing this stuff, if you're out there playing tackle and you got to go block Will Smith or Mike Kudla or Cam Hayward or these guys that are first rounders, and you better act confident. You better fake it till you make it, dude. Because we're not out here to inspire confidence as coaches. You guys better, if you don't think you're the baddest dude on earth, then you're probably right. So you better go out there and you better fight them. You better not take any stuff from anybody. And, I say the other word, obviously, but it's just so, it's such a mental game at a lot of, basically all the positions, but especially the ones where you have a lot of one-on-ones, like tackles, cornerbacks, because some of these cornerbacks, man, they go out there, if they have a bad day, at Ohio State now, and they go against JJ could go for 300 yards in practice against you and 5 touchdowns. And that is not going to be a fun film session. And, you got to pick yourself up off the mat, but it's a great metaphor for life. I mean, people in life go through all kinds of horrible things, terrible things. You know, like my dad died when I was 12, so I wasn't planning on that. And we were living a pretty idealistic life, and you know, we're just cruising along, and we're gonna have a really nice, easy, not an easy life, but you know, he made great money, and we're in Naples, Florida, and whatever. And so, you know, when you get hit in the head with a sledgehammer and your dad dies, all of a sudden, you know, you better figure out real quick that, hey, guess what? Nobody's coming to save you. So you better get off the mat and you better go save yourself and just work hard and do the right things and take care of people when you can and do what you got to do. And that's why, like, I love football, and I hate that we live in such a soft society now where people don't want their kids playing football because, you know, despite some concussions and some dinged up, you know, torn MCLs and broken legs and all the other, or sprained ankles, anything I've ever dealt with, none of it compares to the amount of mental toughness that it gave me from the game. And I love that because I think that, you know, like guys that are tough mentally, like Jack Mewhort, Norwell, Lindsley, they're always successful when they're done playing. You know, they're not, you know, in a heap, you know, weeping softly in the corner. And again, like, you know, do guys have ups and downs? Of course, this is life in general. That's football, that's life, that's whatever. But, you know, like when we got smashed by Florida, like I had to go to school the next day, you know, like, and it's like, well, I could compound that loss by missing class for a few days and looking like a moron. And then I have to go make up to my professors and not, you know, be behind on stuff and lose participation grades, or I could just show up and eat it, you know, because, you know, when everyone knows when you walk in that you're the football team and what happened and whatever. And I rolled with it. I owned it. Just because I think that that's the way to do it. Like, don't be scared. I mean, you could ask every one of those media guys, all those credentialed media guys, ask them if I ran after either of those games. I stood there. I took every question, and not every guy in that locker room did that. Because again, you have to understand, in the national championship, it's completely different than any other college football game I've ever played in, because 10 minutes after the game, the media are allowed into your locker room. So I'm sitting there for the Florida game, and all of a sudden there's, you know, 500 media people in our locker room, which again that happens in the NFL. That doesn't happen in college. Like in college, they don't let the media people in the locker room. They let them in the little press room above the horseshoe. And so those guys were in there, and man, I'm telling you, there were some of our guys, they couldn't have ran out of there fast enough. And I stood there and took every question. And I was like, you know what? If I'm going to be there in front of the podium when we beat Michigan and we have all these great moments, I'm going to be here for all the rest of it. Because again, I think, like, as a man, when you get smoked, it's a different measure when you stand up there and you take your medicine, which is very bitter medicine, and you answer their questions. You know, again, all those media guys loved me until I became their competition, and I stood there and I answered every single question. And you know what? I wasn't scared. I was honest. I gave Florida credit. I said we weren't good enough. You know, and that's not fun after you just lost 41-14, but I did it. So again, I think that from a mental side, I think it's always better to be the bigger man and to do that type of stuff. So, Nevada, do you have anything to add? Because I know that you've ran a lot of teams, you've been around a lot of sports. Talk about the mental aspect of the game. When times get hard, how do you rise up to the occasion? Mindset seems to be the difference. Do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I just want to know, like, when did they ask you, have you and Mrs. Barton gone out on a date? Like, did they ask you that question? Like, what was your last date or anything else like that? And how did you answer that when they asked you that question?
Well, here's the thing. They know that I don't go out on dates because I podcast every night at 7. So my wife doesn't get to go. She doesn't get to go on dates. She gets to give the kids, she gets to moderate the chat. That's our date.
Okay.
And she gets to gets our kids cleaned up for bedtime. So when you hear my kids screaming, it's usually because they're running around the house because they're, you know, getting ready to go to bed in about an hour or so. But no, like do they get to go on a date? No. Did I get to go on a date? No. We are podcasting, baby, because we got people ready to go, baby.
What was your last date? We podcast. We have virtual dates where we're together every night at 7.
You know, I take her B-Dubs or Twin Peaks. You know why? Because they're our partners. Babe, where do you want to go? Twin Peaks or B-Dubs? Oh boy, Mr. Romance. But hey, I was like, we're good partners, man. There with bells and whistles on.
I love it. I love it.
Matt Crawford, appreciate you. Thank you for the 10. An occasional Buckeye parent interview would be neat. You've mentioned Monica Daniels. It would be cool to hear her experience with recruiting. Same with Sanchez's family, Bosa, etc. I agree. I've had Monica on the show. Monica is she's the ace parent because I've told you, and again, if you guys have watched, I had an interview with her probably 3 or 4 years ago where, I mean, she absolutely was just phenomenal. And again, she's a great watch. Just if you guys want to kind of see what it's like to get recruited, what's kind of the BS that goes on at other schools, kind of the whole 9 yards. But if you have kids and you're just trying to, raise them, and not every kid's gonna turn to Paris Johnson, but it's like, what's the right path forward to raising my kid correctly, to dealing with colleges, college visits. I mean, even if they're not athletes, like what do you look for? Like she's a wealth of knowledge. She's a razor sharp lady. And I'll reach out to her and see if she wants to do another one. I'm sure she would. She loves it. She travels a lot. She works a lot. Obviously she goes to all of Paris's games, which I think is kind of every parent's dream, is being able to go home and away to all of PJ's games. So that's awesome. And good for her. So I will work for that. Nevada, any requests for Buckeye parents?
No, I mean the Sanchez family, obviously, kind of the new age Monica Johnson. But yeah, look, we've got so many great parents. That's the great thing about these kids is, man, they've got a lot of them just got these unbelievable support systems. A lot of these people have really engaged in the understanding of how helping on the recruiting, helping out the staff in terms of delivering it. I think those parent interviews are always super interesting. I know I listen to them. Like when Monica Johnson did her interview with you, she killed about 19 different
Oh God.
untrue stories and killed some bad narratives, and you guys were knocking stuff down left and right. So yeah, I'm all for that. Let's have more of those.
Mo- Monica, did you really not have Greg Sudoir's phone number? Did he not have your phone number? And did he not talk to Paris ever? And no, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. I was like, well, it sounded dumb, but I don't know. It's been perpetuated throughout the annals of uh, the message board world. Nevada, you get you back in here. Crutch 31. Uh, oh man, I appreciate you. Thank you for the 5. Hang on, I gotta get Nevada back in here. Uh, Crutch 31. Yeah, it was funny because talking about the Monica thing, where I was like, is it true that Greg Sudoir never had your phone number or Paris's phone number or anybody's phone number? Because that's what was told on message boards by the Buckeye recruiting reporters, even though I thought it was the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. They're like, oh no, like Seth actually would break down Paris's film with him every Sunday. Like they would sit there and break down his like Saint Xavier film or his Princeton film, whatever, wherever he's playing high school at. Like they would like in depth go through his film. And I was like, well, that sounds like he had his phone number then, right? Or did they use like a Teams call or a Zoom call or something else? So I don't know. I thought it was that was pretty interesting, Nevada. She like just absolutely nuked that entire narrative. But again, when people are stupid, we're here to destroy the stupid narratives that come out of the Woody Hayes, because people can put those out, but you guys need truth tellers, and that's why you guys tune into us. Nevada Crutch 31, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my friend. Appreciate you guys. The Buckeye beat sucks compared to what you guys bring. 2, how do you see the safety rotation playing out? Ransom, Downs, then who? Yeah, the first part, like, I mean, we don't like talking about the beat, but I mean, the beat, the talent is way down from where it was when I was there. A lot of the really good guys, like Bob Hunter's gone now. There were some really talented guys that used to be on the beat. Now the beat is mostly just fans, which again, it's fine. We don't care. They do them and we do us, and we see how the numbers play out. 2, the safety rotation, I think Lathan Ransom, Caleb Downs will be the lion's share. Malik Hartford will be, I think, in the middle. A guy who's made a huge jump in the last 6 months is Jaden Bonsu. That's a guy that I think is going to have a huge impact on the year. Lathan, obviously the big thing with him is he has to stay healthy. He's been dinged up a little bit last few years. So, and Caleb is Caleb, and he's going to be probably the best player in the country. So I love our safety rotation. It's deep. We've got great leadership. We've got great skill, great talent. Again, our secondary is the deepest I've ever seen at Ohio State. Between corner and safety, and nickel with Jordan Hancock, I've never seen anything like it. So I cannot wait to see what we do with these guys. Nevada Crutch 31, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my friend. Appreciate you guys. The Buckeye beat sucks compared to what you bring. 2, how do you see the safety rotation playing out? Lathan Ransom, Caleb Downs at then who? What is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, just on the first part, we're just not beholden to anybody. And what you say, why does that matter? It's because when you're beholden, you cannot tell the truth. You just can't. You'll get the mean text. You'll get the mean thing. You'll get. They believe me. Ohio State watches everything, and they're very petty about these things. And so, if you have any connection to them, then they control you. And that for me, that's a liberating thing. Being here with Kirk is because we just don't care. we will tell you when it's good. We'll tell you it's good. If we're telling you it's good, it's good. And if we're telling you it's bad, it's bad. But it's really good right now, so we're giving all the thumbs up. But that's the fun part of our job is that we don't owe anything to anybody, and we're not beholden to anybody. As a second part, no, I think Kirk nailed it. Obviously, you've got the starters, but I mean Hartford and Bonsu would start for a lot of teams. I mean, I like those guys a lot. Bonsu's probably come on as much as maybe anybody on the team. He has really, really, really risen up the depth chart, and I think he's a guy that'll see minutes this year because they want to play guys. They want to play more guys than ever. They want to keep guys engaged. They've got to keep guys engaged because if you don't, you're going to lose them out the back door to the portal, and Ohio State does not want to have that happen to talented players like Hartford and Bonsu.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, and like I said, the biggest thing with us is like we're not enslaved by Ohio State like the rest of them are. So again, that's just our motto is like they don't, we do us. And again, I think people enjoy hearing what's really going on as opposed to false narratives. And again, we destroy those faster than anybody in the world because we've got great sources in the Woody Hayes and we've got great sources around college football. So we have a lot of fun on here. Poober12, thank you for an always excellent super chat. I can always count on you to bring the heat. UD Sonny, a lot of you guys are excellent. I appreciate all you guys. Thanks for the deuce. Best recruiting photo is John Simon's dad's neck.
Nevada. Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean,
absolutely, 100%.
Johnny's 100%. Probably 260 pounds in that thing, and it looks like John Simon's dad's head is the size of Johnny's like upper torso. Like, look at that thing. I mean, it's like he had to come out from under the bridge to come to his kid's signing day.
That is terrifying. Club. That is absolutely.
Oh my god!
I know you're a big tough guy, but that's got to be terrifying even for you, man. Looking at that, that is a terrifying dude.
He loved me, man. Cause he gave me one of his hats. It said Simon's Gym on it because I used to train. I used to be rocked up, and he's like, you look like you lift. I was like, yep. He's like, here's one of my hats. I was like, you're the man. I mean, I was like, he looks like the mountain from Game of Thrones. It's like he's gonna smash Oberlin Tyrell's head with his thumbs and stuff. That's how that guy's strapped up. But he is a great man. Johnny is the toughest player in Ohio State history, in my opinion. Johnny, Jack Mewhort, Norwell. I mean, we had some guys that were legitimate, all right, who am I taking in the dark alley? I'm taking those guys. And we don't need chains. We don't need baseball bats. We don't need, just give me those guys. So those guys were like the Avengers of just absolute meatheadedness. But they were, it was a special crew, man. I loved coaching with those guys because I'm telling you, Johnny worked out at 6 a.m. 365 days a year. And I've never, every biomechanical wizard book that you read is like, oh, you can't do that. You're gonna burn out. Oh, your body's not gonna work no more. Oh, your ligaments are gonna turn us. Johnny didn't care. Johnny lifted. He trained heavy. I've never seen anything like this kid. Most ripped, in shape, just a monster. He had a great NFL career. Lasted I think 7 or 8 years in the league, and what a what a great dude, man. I love Johnny. And his dad was an awesome dude too. So. Well, Nevada, I think we can wrap this thing up. Any final thoughts? Appreciate you grinding through this thing. It's a funny show today.
Yeah, well, if you're listening to the show on any of the other formats, consider coming over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, leave us a like. Man, I know we have a ton of people that are watching this on X/Twitter/Facebook Live, whatever. But come over to YouTube. You can super chat. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribers. We're on our way to 32, 33. Number one site for Ohio State football on the entire internet. And just because of our great audience and our great community and our great family. So, guys, thank you so much, and we'll get after it again tomorrow night.
Appreciate you guys kicking it with us. Sorry, I was on mute for a second. I hope that you guys had a great night with us. Again, we appreciate you guys being on here. Chat was lit. So shout out to everybody in the chat. As always, appreciate you guys holding it down. It has gone crazy tonight. So thank you guys for that. As always, being active. Leave us a like if you can. The likes are huge for propelling this episode up the algorithm, which you guys do every single night on YouTube, because we are crushing the numbers, and it's all thanks to you guys. So I appreciate you guys doing that. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. That is my one request. If you guys really want to help our show out, that would be absolutely great. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're growing the audio medium. Even if you like to watch it on YouTube, subscribing to it is also huge for us. So do that. And I appreciate all that you guys do. Again, if you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, click that little alert bell. And I appreciate you guys. I hope that you guys are having a great night. I hope you guys had a great long weekend. Shout out where you guys are watching from. Shout out who you guys are watching with. Leave us some comments. Comment on the video. All your feedback and comments are read, and I love reading them, and I love hearing anything you guys have to say. So I appreciate you guys as always. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. We will talk to you guys tomorrow, 7 p.m. We'll be grinding along tomorrow night. Can't wait to see you then. Go Bucks.